So I thought I wanted to show you how fast and more streamlined if we're running. So there's rabbit actions, right? Definitely. And if we look at our actions, see how clean that is compared to. Okay, I'm not going to add anything new, but I wanted to alter various things for optimization and streamlining and stuff. Like, for example, let's look at our deer. So our deer, we have health, and that one's fine. That one's, we're not going to do too much with that. What else do we have? Let's look at population remove. I mean, that's pretty simple. It's mainly these ones. So we have essentially this action is behaviors, right? And we want to streamline that. So as we build more behaviors, we don't want some massive crazy code here going all ballistic, ugly, and hard to debug. So things like this. Say the wander. All of this is for the wander. And this is going to be quite universal. So there's a very easy way to do this. If I actually just go and we'll make a temporary new FSM, and I'm going to just copy this and go into this guy, and we're just going to paste it. All right, and just close it down, reopen it so it repaints. So here we have now a system of wandering. So we can, let's choose wander distance. This can also be, no, this will be n wander distance and wander distance. So I'm going to try to convert these all to variables, and you'll see why in a second. So there we have that. We have a speed, which we're going to convert to wander speed. And I'm going to use that same speed. I think that would probably be a smarter thing to do. And we have get position, steering targets. And I'm going to actually get rid of the flea. Wait, why are we getting steering target steer? Oh, we're just checking a distance to the steering target. Don't really need the steering target. Actually, the thing we need here is actually this, the move to. And our current position. And then we have an idle, idle or move, and we could change these to idle chance and move chance. All right, we have 3 idles. And as long as we maintain that, we don't have, we're not going to put the flea into this. And when it finishes, we can go back up here. We're not going to have the flea. put the start over here. Get rid of that. And now I'm just going to delete some of the variables that we're not using. All right. So you know what? Let's put the start up here. Let's do this. So we want, we don't need the, okay, we want, say, an idle chance. We want that to put that into the input. And we want wander speed put in the input. Wander distance put into the input. That's about it. So right from the start, what we want to do is do float operator. And we're going to take 1 and the idle chance, I think, is what we put in there. Idle chance. We're going to subtract those and we're going to get the move chance. So that means our idle chance, I can't limit those. That's okay. And what else do we want? Wander distance. So the other thing we now need is a float operator. And we take the wander distance and we're going to multiply it by -1. And we're going to store that into the negative wander distance. All right. And that's it. Now I'm just going to right click, save template, wander system. Sure. And now I'm actually just going to delete that whole frickin' FSM and go back up to the brain. Nope, not the brain, the actions. Sorry. So now, instead of running all this, right, all this crazy stuff here, we can now, well, I'll use this one because it's already called wander, and do run FSM. Choose the template, our wander system. So now we have those. Okay, and in here we have that bool test for fleeing. We can put that in there. And that's pretty much about it. Now we can delete all that. And now we have wander. And then from here we can flee. And the flee, I don't know, we'll just go up, back up to here. Athena, can you put that away somewhere? That horse. Right, so now all of a sudden it looks a lot cleaner, right? So we have these chances now. Now, remember, this is based 0 out of 1. So let's do a 0.7. And the wander distance will say 20. Wander speed, we're going to do 0.75. That's all we have to do. Now the wandering for the deer is done. But we can take this now and run this FSM on any other AI, and we have a wandering system done. I know, mind blown, right? And it's just that easy, right? So once we start getting going, now we have wander. Decision tree. That's also kind of a decision tree. Now we have eat and drink, right? So eat and drink are based off of int of the highest index. So we could you know what, because we have the need system and we want to loop it, what we could do is when we finish, right, because we're going to loop through, we do all this stuff and we move. But we can literally just go like this. All right, and then here we can go finish FSM. That might make a little more sense. So now it will end. It has a starting point and an end point. Okay, so now, just due to we have this need system built in and it has to cycle to it, we can say when we're finished, run decisions. And it'll go over here, and if it wants to wander, it'll just come back and do it again. So now we have this nice simple thing, right? So, and I can show you how effective that is, especially for cleaning things up, right? Like if we look at a deer whenever they spawn, as you see, he is still wandering just fine. He's running fine. Their behavior is still going to be just peachy keen. But now, it's a lot easier for us to replicate our logic into other AI, troubleshoot, and to keep this into a clean and orderly fashion, right? So we can also do, you know, stuff like this. Okay, well, we have, we want to go eat. Add our little FSM or temp1, and we can copy this, go into our temp FSM, paste it. So how do we want to do this? We have a walk speed, and we can put that also into the animator. We can get owner, move to the top. This is fine because that's off of manager. And the closest game object is current food. And we finish. We're moving there and we get our distance. We don't need our flee because that's going to be part of the behavior thing. So we get our distance. And when we get there, we don't need that. We say set animator bool. This is fine, even though it's in another FSM, it'll find it. So we don't need fleas. And we check hunger. And we can send the event. Right, and if we're good, finish FSM. The fleeing thing we don't actually need. So it's literally just simple as that. I don't even think we need to grab any variables in the start. Other than if you... Athena, turn that down. Other than if you want, you know, maybe different tags or something for different foods. So let's say this is the go eat system. So now we go to the actions, action satisfaction, and we can go to our eat, and instead of all this, we get rid of that, and we get rid of that. We don't need that. We just need the flee. I don't think we need any of that, but we will need this one. Yeah, let's get rid of that. So if we want to eat now, we can say our eat system. And we have our bool test in here for fleeing, which will still run the whole flee thing, and that could probably just go up there. Actually, you know what, to even make that cleaner, let's just say return to flee. Where did it go? Return to flee. And just literally have, so you know what, let's just put it right here. Return to flee. Let's get rid of that. Right, because now we can say, all right, well, if we're gonna, is true, instead of running up here, let's do return to flee, get rid of this one. Right, and same with this one. Let's just do return to flee, get rid of this one. Now we're drawing less lines, making it even cleaner. And now we have, we don't need to eat, but when we do, what we do need to run FSM, the go eat system, and we are done. So if we are done doing our eating, we can go here. And this guy will, you know what, he's just going to return to flee. So we don't actually we don't need that at all. Let's just return to flee here. There we go. So this is the, we need a new cycle of something. And now we have a wander system that looks quite simple. We have a eating system that looks really simple. This is all getting nice and cleaned up. All right. And as you can tell, probably already, by the time you run through and do this, it really cleans this up, and it makes it so if you want to add 50 different behaviors in here, it all of a sudden gets really manageable. It scales quite well, this system. Right? So again, we can copy, add our little fake FSM down here, paste it, set as a start state, get rid of this guy, we don't need him, and we'll use our walk speed. Oh, you know what, I forgot to put that one in the on the other side. We'll fix that. So we have that. We're going to go water. We don't have the flee. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. You know, we're good. So let's get rid of that. Finish FSM. Just like that. So save template as drink system. Sure. Delete that FSM, we don't need it anymore. And we go back up to our actions. Right, and now I am just going to copy this guy over. And this can now be our drink system. And done. I'm actually just going to use his same cycle. Might as well reuse it. And we don't want to go eat. We want to go drink system. And all right, so like I said, now we don't have variables here, and I meant to put variables here. So we go into here and we say, okay, has target. Let's get rid of that. We don't need it. The walk speed, let's stick that out there. Let's just save that. And let's do the same thing with this drink system. All right, let's go in here. We don't need that one. It's no longer needed. Put that into the inputs. And come back over here. Oh. And now we have some speeds here, right? And we could say, all right, well, we have a, well, we don't have a walk speed. So in here, let's put in a walk speed and also put that into an input. And we could also have, say, a run speed. Put that into the input. There, now walk speed can be walk speed, and this guy walk speed can also be walk speed. There we go. Now we have eat and drink. So this guy here has become garbage. Ba-doop. Now we have wandering, eating, drinking. That just kind of resets. And we just have this nice, clean looking FSM. And in reality, I mean, we're running 3 different systems now in here, right? So we can do that same thing. So let's put walk speed to 1, run speed to 6. Right, and we can make a flee system. We could also make an attack system. And then if we want to build an AI and he wants to flee at a certain health and attack, it's pretty easy just to add one little thing and have a little branch like this. Right, so flee. What is flee? Well, we want to do. So what we're going to do actually in here is we're going to have a game object as target. And we're going to pull that in when we use these, right? So let's copy those and add our little FSM, paste. So if we're going to flee, we're now going to get, we're actually going to use our actions, and we have a target there. And that'll just keep things really very uniformly. So we need a run speed, right? So run speed can now be an input. Let's set that as start state. Get rid of that. So we're going to set run speed. We're getting our target. We're going to set the animator also to run speed. I'm going to have to do a little bit of animator work after, but just to keep things, this really just makes it really easy that if I duplicate this onto another AI, I already know whatever I'm going to use for the run speed, I'm also going to use for the animator. So now we have our alternating left and right, which we can keep that. Right, now we could alter this a bit. What else do we have here that we can use for variables? That is our distance. It really doesn't, I don't think that's going to change. We don't need to worry about that. Right, we're not going to use a let's wander in these. To the returned point. Yeah, that's that thing. And then we finish. We wait. Okay, yeah, so we will need a... No, that's actually just fine. Just like that. So let's go over here. We don't need all these variables. We get rid of some of them. We have run speed. Let's also... I don't know, should we do the zigzag pattern size? Because we can make these variables and kind of do like we did with the rabbit with the stuff, or the wander. I don't know, 5 to 15 is probably fine. I don't think that's that big of a deal. And I think that's good. Let's just save template. Now let's call this flea behavior. Sure. And I'm going to now delete that. So now in our action, if we're going to do a flea, let's just use this guy. We're going to run FSM. Our flea behavior, which has a run speed. So we'll give it our run speed. And it also is going to want this target. And I wanted to put it up here just in case. So get FSM game object. We'll go from our brain target. As simple as that, right? So then all we have to do now is if copy and paste, and there's our flea. None of this matters anymore. We can get rid of that. Boop. So there's now our action system. A lot cleaner, a lot easier to use, ain't it? All right, so if we go back here, well, we test it. We can see the deer is wandering. Right? Oh, look, he's fleeing. That flea, everything there works. Right? Pretty cool, huh? So, and now it makes this FSM so easy to duplicate, or even just to make another FSM. Like if you make a new AI, like really, how hard is it now to do? We're just going to reset them there, and this is for the need system. You don't necessarily need this if you don't have the need system. You can almost just run it off of here, right? But I mean, now it's, you know, do we want to run, eat, drink, new cycle, flee, and we could also now build an attack one, right? Pretty simple. Get rid of that crap. So what else can we do that with, right? Can we do that with our brain at all? So we have in the deer brain, we have that player and the delay. So we have our sight, seen something, Ray get next, we run through all of this, which I think we can do. Right, so if this is basic sight for seeing the player mask, then we could add FSM. Right, we could take this and go over here, paste it, and start state, we'll say. Actually, no, let's put the start state here, so we're going to have to grab a couple things. Right, so we have sight range, that could be a variable in the input. There's one. The layer mask, and I don't know if we can use, we should be able to use the layer mask. As a variable, right? Like it's showing 0, right? Which, if we're looking for the player, we can default it to 8. And okay, so we've seen something. So we now have, we're looping. Store distance to player. So we now have a very close, you know, and we don't necessarily need this, but we can have this here, right? We could have a bool like this, check for very close, and put that out here. I'm gonna default it as true, right? And I'm just gonna do a quick bool test. On check for very close. So if this is true, let's check, and let's not check. Right, because if you're building AI and this is more of a universal system that you want to use for all sorts of different AI, and you want to run this FSM, you may not want that feature. Maybe you do, right? So if it's true, we'll do that. Oh wait, no. Check for very close. Yeah. So then we'll run it here, and if not, then let's not check. We'll go down here. Right now here, I'm not going to this one. I'm not going to get angle to target. I don't think. Let me think. So if, okay, this, we're checking for very close, which if it's checked, we're checking this float compare. So yeah, let's not get that. Because if we're very close, we can just do this. If we're not, though, let's not do the finish. Not very close. And then run this down over here. And we don't need to run that here now. Right, we're just going to get that, the angle. Right, so we just kind of did a little split there. So we're checking our distance, but now we're going to check our options that we've put in, that do we want to run the system for very close? Yes or no. Might change depending on the AI, but if, and regardless, then after that we're going to do, okay, let's do our angle check. So looking at general direction, so this could be sight, not range, but sight, I guess angle. Right, so let's go sight angle, put that into the input. Let's just default it to 60 for now. Right, in this guy here we have site range and the layer mask. They're both in there, right? Inputs. Yep. And looking general direction. So we also need this site object, which we can get it over here. We can turn around and say, find this object, right? Get child. So the child name is site, and he's going to be stored as site. And I guess he doesn't have tags, so untagged. That should work. You might have to give him a tag. We'll see. We'll see how that looks. So we're now going to look at target, which is coming from over here, right there. Okay, so that's good. And we're ray casting, and we're going to want to use the how do we want to do that portion? Player player and ground. I guess that's really all this one needs. But if we put this on, say, a friendly AI, then it would also need a third one, because the AI are on character. So they'd have to check for character as well. And then we either can see or can't see. Right, so if we can see the player, then we would set FSM game object. This is what in the, this is in the brain. Target with target. And then finish FSM. And if we can't see the player, then we could literally just probably loop here. And when this guy is fully done, he's done all his loops, what do we want to do? We could get this thing to finish the FSM, or we could just tell it to keep checking, right? We could just go over here, do a wait, and maybe we want to use a variable for this guy. Maybe we want a update frequency. Right, so let's put that guy in here, and let's default him at, say, 1, and finish, and go here. Right, so we're going to have a target if we find something. Now we can save this as site FSM, or site system. Alright, so we go back to our dir. I'm going to delete site system. We don't need that. And we go to our brain. Alright, now we have all this big crazy thing. And we could now delete that. Delete that. Delete that. And run FSM. Let's do our site system. And the site system, so we have our masks, and we have our site variable, which it actually finds it. So we don't actually need that. I'm just going to leave it blank for now. Angle, range, the update, and oh, you know what we don't have in here though is, oh no, because it's going to set the target in FSM game object. Now you could do you could set an object like this and put it as an output, and it should more or less do that for you automatically. And I've used those and they work for the most part. There is a couple of them I found that don't really work though. So I find it just easier. We're just going to set a variable in here. Right, because now I can do is null, and actually I don't even need to do that. Oh, didn't mean to do that either, that's for sure. If this thing finishes, then we have seen something, because that's how we kind of wrote it. Right, we don't necessarily have a finish here. And if we've seen something, you know, we would be running over to our brain. And because we've, in here, we set that variable target, this stuff's already going to be running off a target. Or it should be. Yeah, target right there, that's what it's looking at. And it has sight. Right, now the sight here, obviously that needs to be filled. Now we could template that portion too, clean that up. So we'd run that a little differently anyways. Right, and if this thing doesn't actually see anything, it's literally just going to sit in this FSM and run it. Right, so I mean, we could bring this over, and if the player does go null, you know, go back. But it's really not. But we don't have that anymore. But we should check that, make sure on this loop that we do resize it in here. Okay. Right, so there's our brain. Right, and we can now tell it to run different layer masks too, right? So we're checking for very close, we're looking for layer 8, which we can go up here and just see we're looking for the player layer. So we could change that now by variable and stuff, everything's good. So let's test that. Can the deer see us? Athena, turn that down. Alright, so that deer is not seeing us. Let's go see why he is not seeing us. What is he seeing? This deer. So we go into the brain. This thing's running. And let's just click show. So he is now because we don't have that next frame linked up. Well then, that's kind of my fault. So did I have two scenes something? So apparently I do. I guess that'll help too. So let's just go down there, link it to our cycle. I guess you always got to make sure things are linked. I guess the code doesn't want to run if it's not linked. Alright, so where's a deer? There's a deer over here. Right, so if we get too close, he should run. Yeah, so they're running. There we have, so system's working just fine. But as you see now, it is a hell of a lot cleaner running that compared to what we had, right? And what is all this? What is this chaos we have here, right? What is all this crap? This is the site, or has site. And how do we lose site? So let's build an FSM for this guy. Copy, go down, put our fake FSM, paste it. So if we, we'll have a start state. So we're going to get FSM game object, right, from the brain, the target, and that is our target. All right, we're going to retrieve that first when this runs. Now we could use a memory memory length, I guess we could call it. Oh wait, what am I doing here? Oh yeah, no, that's fine. So memory length, we'll put that into the inputs. So it's now adjustable. And we come down here, we null that thing out. That will actually work just fine. We have our weight, which we could turn that into a variable. So we need a site object. So let's also grab that. A brain target site. Put that into the site. Just to make sure we have that. We raycast, and we'll do that same thing with our raycast. We'll bring in the character as well. We could make that a variable for site range. You know, can we see game object target is to hit compare. Subtract 1 from the memory, compare memory, and if we go wander, we set that as false, and we finish FSM. And if we cycle, we go up here. Pretty simple, right? So now we save template, and we'll call this, I don't know, has site system. And we go down, we'll remove that because we don't need it. So now we have a run FSM has site system. So memory length, how long we want them to think about, and call that has site. So now we can just go here, and if we're done, lost site and lost memory of them. So lost site, and we could now, we could go back here, I suppose. It doesn't really matter. Just kind of go back and forth now. And let's get rid of all that. So this one grabs the site object. This one did. I think this one did that too, didn't it? No, he gets child. Well, let's change that because he doesn't need to do that. Let's get FSM game object in this one too. We used it on the other one. Might as well use it on this one. All right, let's edit this guy. Copy. Paste. Ha ha ha. Can't outsmart me. Alright, so now we're back in here. So this guy gets the player. He really doesn't need to get the player anymore, I don't think. Right? Like we don't really need that anymore. In fact, I don't think we need. Like we can maintain that getting the site. That's cool. But I mean, technically the rest of this we don't need. I mean, really, if we want to clean things up. You know, we can get our child. Like we really don't need any of that. I'll put a next frame event because I like to do that in the start of my logic. For some crazy reason, it solves issues. And then from here, go there, and now we have site testing, or the brain, right? Pretty simple looking all of a sudden, right? Because our actions and doing our behaviors, our brain does the sites. You know, health, we're not gonna, well, we might play with health at some point in time. You know, we could now do the needs system as well. So let's hit play. Let's make sure that all works. Super simplified, streamlined deer logic. All right, so there he's running. Everything's good. But like I said, it makes adding on to it a lot easier. It makes troubleshooting it a lot easier. It's just such a flexible system when you start building them that way. So I wasn't going to bother doing that until I created the companion video. Because now we're starting to modify, do things extra with the AI, and things are starting to get a little chaotic and messy. I'm sure you guys probably noticed that. So it was like, you know what, like I should probably just batten down the hatches on this one, because if we keep extending it, if we don't do this, it will get harder and harder and more chaotic, and we don't want that, right? No one wants that. So it's just a matter of cleaning all that up, right? I mean, like even these seem pretty simple. Like this thing in itself could almost be a because we get a value from here, and we set a value from there, get a value from there, and we set a value in there. I mean, that could be pretty much streamlined, so we're not having a whole bunch of FSMs. The array list sets, because he has his needs. And dealing with the array list proxy, I mean, it, you know, like this does a wait in the next frame. Like, just to make that easier, we could take this whole thing and say, I'm just going to save template as is and call this needs decay system. And I'm going to delete that and go into the actual need system. And I'm just going to run the FSM right in here. Right, the run decay system. Because really, I mean, he's gonna, well, more or less then, he's gonna do a cycle. All right, so we might have to modify him just slightly. Because really, if you think about it, he's doing all of this. And he does a wait. And he comes, all right, so we can get rid of that wait. And, you know, maybe just move the next frame up here. So then he comes down. And stick the wait in here for that 1 second and be running this thing. Right, so after that 1 second, he's just going to zip up here, run this stuff, zip back and continue, and then run this again. Right, so this guy here, while he's running then, essentially he's going to have a 1 second delay anyways once in a while. So he really doesn't need this wait 2 seconds anymore. Get rid of that. He's going to come over, you know, get these values, set these values, and really at this point in time we can almost just end this FSM. He doesn't really need to run. Right, we could alter these values. Right, finish. I mean, we don't need this thing to be running all super crazy constantly. Like we could tell it to loop, right? But you know, we can call this, say, the hunger decay, and this one will have a thirst decay. And then those two would both go into the inputs. Right, we can default those at, you know, 0.2 and 0.3 or whatever, wherever we want them. And now, when we go back here, right, he'll run this cycle, wait that half a second, do this stuff, or wait that 1 second. If we want to, you know, maybe speed him up, we could do that, but really it shouldn't matter that much. And then that's a little more of a streamlined needs system. Right, and I don't know if we can run a template in a template. I'll have to try that sometime, because if we could, then we can put this and stick this somewhere too. But until then, so this thing is fine. I mean, it really doesn't need to change. It's so simple as is. It's just more or less the action in the brain, right? So let's save that, I think, as is. And in the next video, when I start doing the predators, I'll continue on with this method, and I'll make one of these for the attack and another one for pack hunting and stuff, and we can literally just tack these on, and then any AI in the future, we can literally mix and match things, and it becomes much more easier and probably simpler for you guys to start designing really crazy AI. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like I said, we're not really adding anything new in this video. It's just about cleanup, and I did the deer, and now to save time on the video, I'll go, you know, off camera, and I'll do the same thing to like the rabbit and the zombie, other than the attack. I won't do the attack yet. I'll wait till that's filmed. But for the repetitive stuff, I'll do that off film, so we're not doing that over and over and over again in the same video, because you guys will be like, what the fuck is this? So anyways, like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys in the future.